I watched the Deadpool and Wolverine yesterday and it was amazing. I loved it. If you haven't watched it till now, please do. If you like the MCU movies, you will not regret it. Now, as all the people are really excited for the return of Wolverine, but something in the comics has happened that might be the worst thing ever happened to Wolverine, that broke him completely. Stay tuned to know what it is in this video. The story starts decades ago with a self-made man who came to own several coal mines and was extremely wealthy, but his miners went on strike to get better work conditions, so the man got some men together and went to beat the crap out of them until they got back to work, which was how it was done back then. They were called strike breakers, but it does tell you exactly the type of person this man was. But even after the beatdown, the miners continued to strike, and they even got a union mediator in to negotiate better terms, along with some muscle from Wolverine, who single-handedly takes down any muscle that the man can find. So the strike kept going on, and it went on for so long that eventually the man knew he was beat and he had to negotiate with him. After all, each day the strike went on, he was losing money, but the man didn't take losing very well, and that's why at the negotiations he got extremely drunk to drown his sorrows. But because of all the alcohol, he ended up losing his temper with the woman from the union, and he hit her in the face with a bottle, killing her. Now, as you can imagine, Wolverine didn't like this at all. Now, the man hadn't actually meant to kill her, he just lost his temper and acted out, and he immediately regretted it. But that didn't matter to Wolverine, and so Wolverine killed him, but he left his son alive, which was his biggest mistake that he's ever made. Now, the son should have got his father's empire after he died, but instead he inherited nothing, because when his father died, others descended like jackals and stole all of his mines and wealth for themselves. But that didn't deter the boy. He inherited his father's mind for business, and he worked hard for years, made clever investments, and eventually became rich himself, even buying back the family coal mines. But instead of running the mines, he decided to set them on fire, as they weren't. What he really wanted was revenge on the man who had killed his father, revenge on Wolverine. It wasn't easy, but again, he wasn't scared of hard work, and so he spent even more years searching and tracking until he finally came across Logan, and he shot him dead, or at least he thought he had. But Wolverine's healing factor got him back up and into the fight, and obviously this man didn't know about the healing factor. But soon after, the man was admitted to hospital with some serious and life-threatening injuries. But the man still didn't give up. He tried to kill Wolverine again, but he survived. So he tried again and again in different and more deadly ways, but no matter what he did, Wolverine survived, until finally he realized that he couldn't kill Wolverine alone, and so he found others who had had loved ones killed by Wolverine, and he formed an alliance with them, and they became known as the Red Right Hand, an organization dedicated to making Wolverine suffer for what he had done. Now, some of their loved ones that Wolverine killed were bad guys, some were people he'd assassinated while working for Weapon X, others were just collateral damage from superhero fights. But it didn't matter to the ones who were left behind how or why their loved ones had died. They simply blamed Wolverine for it all, for taking away their friends and families, and so the group investigated Wolverine for years, learning more and more about him, probably more than even Wolverine knew about himself after all the mind wipes he's had, and they soon realized that they couldn't actually kill him. No one seemed to be able to kill him. So instead they decided to make his life a living hell. Literally, they captured Wolverine's soul and sent it to hell, where it was tortured by the devil himself. Meanwhile, his body was possessed by demons charged with killing Wolverine's loved ones. Of course, Wolverine eventually escaped hell and returned to his body, and then he went looking for the Red Right Hand in order to get his own payback, but the organization wanted Wolverine to come, so they actually released the address and details of the Red Right Hand online so that he would definitely come to get them. But Wolverine went straight to the Red Right Hand's headquarters, where he was met by Cannon Foot. Now, Cannon Foot was a member of the Mongols' 5 warriors who were charged with killing Wolverine. They were pretty much the Red Right Hand's enforcers, and Wolverine made quick work of them all, killing Cannon Foot, the overly sexual Shadow Stalker Fire Knives, who has knives that burn like Fire Fist, who has chainsaw strapped to his arms. Arms. These are very clever names, you understand, and Gunhawk, who has guns that are also shaped like knives, and in truth none of these Mongols had the skill to defeat him. They never had anywhere near the skill needed, though the Red Right Hand had known that from the start, and they just lied to them and said they did, but all they could really do was die and slow Wolverine down. But after Wolverine dealt with the Mongols, he finally broke into the hiding place of the leaders, only to find that every single one of them was already dead, having drunk poison and committed suicide, at which point a message plays informing Wolverine of who they are and why they did everything they did, and they also revealed to him that the 5 Mongols that he has just killed were in fact his children. You see, Wolverine is extremely old and quite well known for getting drunk in bars, and it turned out that more than a few drunken one-night stands had resulted in children that Wolverine never even knew existed. But the Red Right Hand had been able to track them down with a little help from Dan, who is one of Wolverine's other children, but we'll get to him in a minute. You see, basically the Red Right Hand knew that they couldn't beat Wolverine, and instead they decided to let him think that he was beating them, while all along he was doing exactly what they wanted, tricking him into killing his own children in order to destroy his life and make him feel what they had all felt, the loss of a loved one who had been killed by Wolverine, and then they had killed themselves so that Wolverine couldn't even get the simple revenge of killing them. All Wolverine had done was ensure that his own blood died, and this is without a doubt the worst thing that an enemy has ever done to Wolverine, and it completely destroys him. He does track down the families of the dead and takes their bodies back to be buried, but after that he leaves society, leaves all of the other heroes, and goes to live alone in the wilderness, lost in his own grief, spending his days and nights climbing cliffs and then jumping off of them, knowing that he can't die, but enjoying the few moments after he hits the ground where he is dead and in oblivion before his healing factor brings him back to life, and he repeats the process over again. Now this didn't last forever, of course. Eventually he got over his grief, or at least began to deal with his grief, and the Avengers and the X-Men came to return him home. But Wolverine was never the same after this, as it really was the worst thing that had ever happened to him, and that is how Wolverine murdered his own children. This is one of those stories that writers have gone out of the conventional way of discussing the heroism of heroes and makes them feel more human and make them feel vulnerable. That what loss of a loved one can do to even a superhero is just so refreshing and amazing. And at last, what do you think? That did Wolverine did right or wrong with the owner of the coal miner? And at last, please do tell me about your opinion about this whole story. Did you like the story, or you think it could have been better? Please tell me in the comments below. Like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel for more fun content. You can also watch the story of when Spider-Man's fought the Sinister Six, and you can also watch the Amazing Justice League and the Avengers collaboration full 3-part series, which I must say that it is an official collaboration between Marvel and DC Universe and not a fan fiction. Thank you for watching.